and recover your energy without pills, potions, or portion control. You're in the right place if you're struggling with a chronic illness or symptoms that leave you feeling tired, foggy, and frankly fed up. You're constantly feeling tired and lethargic, and no matter how much caffeine and sugar you consume, you can't escape the cycle. You're in the right place if you find yourself hiding away from social occasions, family members, and friends because you just don't have the energy. And besides, you can't be bothered to hear yet another piece of well-meaning, albeit irritating, I read about this magical cure on the internet advice. We've all heard that stuff. And you've tried every pill, potion, and lotion and therapy out there to ease your symptoms, but now just feel more confused and tired than ever. You're in the right place if you tried medications and maybe even alternative treatments, but they either did nothing or made you feel even worse. You're in the right place if you're ready to grab the bull by the horns and get to the bottom of these issues once and for all so you can start feeling good again. In the next 60 minutes or so, you're going to learn the real cause behind your symptoms and the simple but powerful changes you can make to your food and lifestyle to feel better fast, no matter your diagnosis. You're going to learn the 3 kryptonite foods that are most likely keeping you achy, tired, ill, and heavier than you want to be, and what to eat instead. You're going to learn why eating a low-fat diet is the best way for your body to pile on fat, and the counterintuitive diet switch that literally melts the weight away. And you're going to learn the 4 simple lifestyle changes that'll skyrocket your mood, deepen your sleep, and bring your spark back without needing to move to a monastery in Tibet. That's kind of my dream of what I want to do when my life just isn't working the way I want. You know, it just seems like kind of an idyllic place. Just move to a monastery in Tibet and forget about it all. But you won't need to do that to get feeling better, I promise. So here's how the call is going to run. It'll run for about 60 minutes. It's a high impact training, so try to stay focused and maybe close down Facebook for the next little while for this important training. Type any questions you have into the chat box as we go along, because when I come back at the end, there's this delay, so it won't seem like, you know, I'm getting there fast enough, and people always leave before I answer questions, so you're going to have to stick around and wait for me, wait through that delay in the broadcast, and I will answer questions at the very end. Does this sound like you? Do you want to take back your health, but with all the competing advice out there about food and lifestyle, can't figure out where to begin? Have you tried to eat healthier or exercise, but find that results are slow and it's hard to stay motivated? Do you wish you could wave a magic wand and make your health issues go away? Do you feel like you're doing everything to get your health back, but nothing seems to be working? Well, I have good news for you. Everything I've just mentioned isn't the real problem. The real problem is that you haven't made the shifts that will really shift your health. And I'm going to share those with you today. Once you make those shifts, you will wake up every morning after a solid 8 hours of sleep, feeling bright, alert, and well, no longer pushing the snooze button and dreading the day. You'll think clearly and maintain your focus, allowing you to work and play and create as you want without having to constantly pep yourself with caffeine or sugar. You'll feel calm, peaceful, and emotionally upbeat every day, no longer feeling cloaked in a heavy cloud of meh or being crabby with your loved ones. Wow, you can ask my loved ones how crabby I used to be. And you'll have the energy and desire to work out or get outside in nature to recharge your batteries, doing fun stuff with your friends and family again. And once you make them, you'll be able to re-engage with hobbies and groups, friends and activities that bring the joy, connection, and fun back into your life. The one thing I want you to understand is that there are just 4 key shifts to getting your spark back and feeling great again. And I'm going to share with you exactly how to do that today. Who I am. Now, I'm an integrative nutrition health coach who specializes in helping people take their lives back from chronic illness. And how this came about was that for many years I was quite ill with a chronic autoimmune condition that had me sleeping too much during the day, awake and restless at night, and gaining a lot of weight. And then I learned a new way of eating, and I recovered my health. If you'd like to recover your health too, keep listening. I'll be telling you how to do that in this web class. Okay, my before pictures. First, over many years, I dieted myself up to 270 pounds. I did this by trying to follow those dietary recommendations that the government has been putting out, since, well, for the last 50 years, to eat more healthy whole grains and cut down on fat. And that's how that worked for me. And then one day at the doctor's office, I needed to get a urine sample, and trying to reach around all of this fat with that jar, I hurt my back. That back injury ended up paralyzing my leg down the front. It's an injury called foot drop, and I needed rather urgent back surgery to correct that. And that's when I made the decision to take some drastic action and have gastric bypass surgery. Now, knowing what I know now, I would not have had that surgery, and it causes a lot of problems and disadvantages with digestion. So I'm just going to put that out there. But I did it, and it did help. So here's during my journey to get my health back after gastric bypass surgery. I did lose 70 to 100 pounds, and kind of floated up and down in a range. But then I got sleepier and sleepier, and another weird symptom popped up. Sometimes my knees would buckle when I laughed. And that symptom is called cataplexy, and it's unique to narcolepsy. And it's what helped me finally get diagnosed with narcolepsy, with cataplexy. And that gave me hope for effective treatment. Well, as we all know, some medications were helpful, and some were not, and some of the side effects were pretty terrible. And then over time, I started to get more and more sleepy and more desperate, because I was, even though I had medication now, I was getting all the best medical treatments, I still wasn't feeling well. So I learned about a food-based option and a Facebook group that was using this food-based option, but was really skeptical that it could work. But then I got desperate as my symptoms got worse. And I became willing to try a gluten-free diet, certain it wouldn't work. Now, I know from the survey questions that some of you have filled out that several of you have indeed given up wheat and feel better because of that. It's not the easiest thing to do. It is important, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Well, surprise, the gluten-free diet did work, and it changed my life. One of the first things I noticed when I went gluten-free was that my cravings for carbs and sugar dropped away dramatically. And I've heard that from other people too, so that was a good thing. It did take about 3 weeks for me to actually wake up out of the narcolepsy and start feeling good, but when it happened, it was dramatic, and I never went back, and I never regret that, I have to eat a special diet. And that was when I learned that the foods we eat really do matter. So I learned to replace junk food carbs with healthy fats like coconut oil and pastured butter. And my husband and I still joke about my butter diet. I started eating a lot more vegetables of all varieties and colors, both raw and cooked. And you can literally see the improvement in my health. So what I've learned that I want you to know, it is possible to take back your life from chronic illness. The foods that you eat are important, and it's carbs that cause weight gain, not fat. And there's just so much you can do. And I'll be covering some of that in this class. So the first key to health recovery is heal your gut. When the gut isn't healthy, there can be any number of problems in the body. Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut. In fact, if you have a damaged or unhealthy gut, you may experience symptoms like fatigue, food allergies, inflammation, autoimmune disease, weakened immune system, anxiety and depression, adrenal fatigue, joint pain, skin issues, and inability to lose weight. Have any of you heard of leaky gut? It's also called increased intestinal permeability, but that's kind of a mouthful, so I'll call it leaky gut. Normally, the cells of the digestive tract form a solid barrier between where food is being digested and the bloodstream. So like over here is in the stomach, the small intestine, food is being digested, little protein chunks are all staying over on this side, solid barrier between the gut and the bloodstream. When the lining of the gut breaks down, it lets food particles and waste, poop, into the bloodstream, and this is not a good thing. The biggest issue with that is small chunks of undigested protein. This little picture represents a small piece of protein. And the immune system recognizes that protein fragment as an invader and launches an attack against it. And now, every time the immune system sees that same amino acid sequence of that little piece of protein somewhere else in the body, in the brain, the spinal cord, or connective tissue, it attacks. And your symptoms depend on where it attacks. If the immune system sees this protein in the brain, you might have narcolepsy. If in the myelin sheaths around nerve fibers, you would have MS. If it's in the connective tissue or organs, you would have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. And to heal from any of these autoimmune conditions, healing has to start with healing the gut and stopping these attacks. I'm sure you all know what celiac disease is, which is an extreme form of leaky gut caused by gluten grains. There is also a milder form of leaky gut called non-celiac gluten sensitivity. It's important to know that wheat causes mild, very mild leaky gut in everyone, but this can be a huge issue for a lot of people. And that gluten sensitivity can affect any part of the body. So the first step to feeling better for many people is giving up gluten so the gut can heal. So, I said there were three kryptonite foods. Well, gluten grains are one of them. So to heal the gut, you stop eating inflammatory foods like gluten grains, wheat, barley, rye, triticale. It's best to eliminate all grains for a time though, because if the gut is still leaky, you can develop new sensitivities to any replacement grains. So it's better to just get rid of them all for a time until the gut is healed. Dairy is a common trigger food for a lot of people, and about half the people who are sensitive to gluten are also sensitive to the proteins in dairy, and many people lack the enzymes to digest the sugars in dairy, and that causes other issues. And the third kryptonite food is refined sugar. Refined sugars cause blood sugar issues, insulin resistance, and imbalance in gut bacteria. Eliminating those foods could go a long way toward healing the gut and reducing symptoms of inflammation. But depending on your body, you may have other sensitivities and need to make further changes. Those are the kinds of issues I help my clients sort out when I work with them as a coach. Okay, once you've eliminated inflammatory foods, what are you going to eat? Well, you need to add in foods that are full of nutrients that your body can use to rebuild your body and brain from the inside. It's really important. And even all the foodies, food experts who advocate different, kinds of healing diets, they all say eat a lot of vegetables of all colors, including sea vegetables. Eat a variety of fruits, especially berries, which are high in antioxidants and low in sugars. You eat pastured, humanely raised meats, which are also higher in omega-3 fatty acids because they're pastured and they get that from the grasses. You eat poultry and eggs, and wild-caught fish and seafood. Eat healthy fats like coconut oil, ghee, pastured butter or avocados, and eat nuts and seeds. Along with the food you eat, another important thing to do to heal the gut is to support your gut bacteria. This is important because we have as many bacteria cells in our guts as we have human cells in the rest of our whole bodies. Processed foods, antibiotics, and stress can all contribute to imbalance in our gut bacteria, so it's important to support the healthy bugs. And there are a couple ways to get healthy bacteria into our systems. We can take probiotic capsules or eat fermented foods. So, one way is with a good probiotic supplement, and here's an example of one good brand. Or we can eat fermented foods like sauerkraut, homemade or naturally fermented. It's amazingly easy to make sauerkraut at home. You basically just shred your sauerkraut, add some salt in a big bowl, let it sit for a little bit, and then pack it in a jar and let it sit for a week. And then you have the best tasting sauerkraut you've ever eaten, probably, if you're used to that stuff that's made with vinegar and comes out of a jar. And you can drink kombucha, which is fermented tea, or kvass, a drink made from beets or fruit. This is my favorite probiotic supplemental drink here, raw lime kvass. It is just it's so lime. It just makes me pucker, and oh, it's so tasty. So, which is a better way to support the bacteria in the gut? Probiotic capsules or fermented foods? Well, it depends. Fermented foods often have many times more probiotic bacteria than a probiotic capsule. One study came up with these amazing statistics. 2 ounces of raw sauerkraut made at home had more probiotics than a 100-count bottle of probiotic capsules. So if you can eat the probiotic foods, it's better. It's probably a lot better to just eat them. But depending on your genetic makeup, your individual food sensitivities, and the health of your gut, you may not be able to eat probiotic foods and will need to take probiotic capsules until you've had time to heal your gut for a while. More on that later, though, when we get to the 4th key to health recovery. So, in summary, the first key to health recovery is all about healing the gut and reducing inflammation in the body. It's a process of eliminating inflammatory foods and adding in real whole foods, the kinds of foods your grandmother or great-grandmother would have recognized as foods. Which brings us to the 2nd key to health recovery. Eat more fat. Yes, more fat, not less fat. It turns out that fat is vitally important to the health of the body, and even more so to the health of the brain. The idea that fat is bad can be traced to Ansel Keys and a study he started in 1958 called the 7-Country Study. The study revealed that the countries where fat consumption was the highest had the most heart disease, supporting the idea that dietary fat caused heart disease. The problem is that he intentionally left out countries where people eat a lot of fat but have little heart disease, such as Holland and Norway, and countries where fat consumption is low, but the rate of heart disease is high, such as Chile. Basically, he only used data from the countries that supported his theory, a process known as cherry-picking his data. So this highly flawed study gained massive media attention and had a major influence on the dietary guidelines of the next few decades. And if that wasn't enough, the next thing that came along was the McGovern Commission. In 1977, the McGovern Commission, chaired by then Senator George McGovern, issued dietary guidelines that are touted to this day. The commission recommended that Americans receive no more than 30% of their energy requirements from fat, and that we consume no more than 10% of our calories as saturated fat. At the time that the commission issued its dietary guidelines, only 2,500 men had been studied in randomized control trials, the gold standard in clinical research, and no study included women. No study showed that a low-fat diet was superior to a diet higher in fat content in any measure of health outcome. In fact, in the one study that compared a 10% saturated fat intake to a diet with unrestricted saturated fat, the low-fat subjects had a higher death rate from all causes, including heart disease. And yet, without any study recommending the dietary guidelines and without any science to back up the guidelines, and with some evidence that the contrary was in fact true, 220 million Americans were advised to lower their saturated fat intake. We were advised to replace butter with margarine. We were advised to replace lard and tallow with vegetable oils. And there was a whole movement to take the fats out of food completely, which produced products like fat-free Italian, Breyer's fat-free ice cream. Just take a few seconds and read those yummy sounding ingredients, because when they take the fat out, they put in all kinds of other crud to make it creamy and taste good. Oops. And the ubiquitous non-fat yogurt, which is everywhere. It's really hard to find full-fat yogurt at your average grocery store. And what we're learning now is how wrong these recommendations were. They have helped to create the modern epidemic of type 2 diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure. And when saturated fats were demonized, we were told to replace them with polyunsaturated vegetable oils, or even worse, margarine that was made by hydrogenating these oils. The problem with these vegetable seed oils, as they're known, or industrial seed oils, is that they have a lot of omega-6 fats, which are a recent addition to the human diet, and we did not evolve to eat them. We evolved to eat fats from seafood and wild animals, and our hunter-gatherer ancestors didn't eat any vegetable oils. These oils that are in just about all processed foods create inflammation and contribute to disease and obesity. There's even recent research that shows that homicide rates increase with increased consumption of linoleic acid-rich soybean oil. Think about that. This is in contrast to homicide rates becoming lower the more seafood people ate. So the key to eating more fat is to eat healthy fats, which are the fats we evolved to eat, like the saturated fats in pastured animals, or the omega-3 fats in fish like wild-caught salmon. So now we can reverse those recommendations that we've been living with for so long. And now the experts are recommending to avoid those vegetable oils that increase inflammation and promote disease, like corn oil, soybean oil, canola, sunflower, or safflower oils. And also avoid the margarines that are made by partially hydrogenating those oils, which contain toxic trans fats. Though I'm thinking that by law, those have been taken out of our food or will be soon. Not all vegetable oils are bad, though. People have been eating extra virgin olive oil, eating olives and avocados, and using the oils from those fruits for centuries, and we digest those very well, and they're very healthy for us. And they contain a lot of monounsaturated fatty acids, which are good for us. Also, coconut and palm oils have medium chain triglycerides, which are fats that boost metabolism and are healing to the brain. So now, eat this. Showing a recipe here from the Wellness Mama for zesty Italian dressing. It's a few simple ingredients, easy to make with using just olive oil and some spices and mustard, vinegar. So eat that, not this. I mean, who wants to eat something with these ingredients? Water, distilled vinegar, sugar, salt, garlic, maltodextrin, corn, soybean oil, onion, xanthan gum, red bell peppers, sorbic acid, and sodium benzoate and calcium. Yeah, I don't need to go on. Yuck. And eat this. Full fat whole milk yogurt, and that's assuming you tolerate dairy. And add some fresh fruit to it. Not this, which once again is like chemical stew. Eat this, guacamole made from a few whole food ingredients. This one, I went to a party recently and somebody brought this Trader Joe's reduced fat, reduced guilt chunky guacamole. And it was fine. It had enough fat to be, tasty and satisfying. But why on earth would you reduce the fat in guacamole when it's such a healthy food in the first place? So, I mean, there are obviously still people running around out there who are promoting the idea that fat is bad. So eat this, healthy fats like coconut oil, ghee, pastured butter, or avocados. And this, organic lard, extra virgin olive oil. Not this, margarine, canola oil, seed oils. The bottom line when it comes to eating fat, just like with eating food, if your grandmother would have cooked with it or eaten it, it's probably good for you. So now we're on to the third key to health recovery, primary foods. In coaching school, we were taught the concept of primary foods and secondary foods. And it took us a bit of time to really grasp this because they called secondary foods are the actual foods we eat, while primary foods are all of the other ways we are nourished in life. Primary foods include things like relationships, career, spirituality, movement, supportive community, joy, and creativity. So one of the first things I do with a new coaching client after having them complete an extensive intake form is to have them complete the Institute for Integrative Nutrition's Circle of Life. Then we know which areas to focus on in creating goals to improve their lives, and I can tailor resources to help them grow in these areas. And the Circle of Life has spirituality, creativity. You would mark around the circle towards the outside in the areas where you're high. You know, if you're struggling with finances, you might, you know, put it towards the center, career, you know, education. You know, if you're struggling with health, it's going to be towards the center. But if you get a lot of physical activity, you know, out towards the edge, home cooking, home environment, relationships, social life, joy. I think I started at spirituality. So it's a good little inventory, and we know which areas to focus on for creating growth. Tongue-tied. We know which areas to focus on in the goal creation part of coaching. And we can track progress over time as clients improve the areas of their life that they rated low at the beginning of coaching. And if a client is struggling in one or two particular areas and not making progress, we can try to get to the root of the resistance to change so that she can bring her life into alignment with her values. For example, if a client is having difficulties with her spouse, we can work on goals to improve the situation, and I can send her resources regarding improving communication or getting counseling for deeper issues. Or if her job is a source of constant stress, we can work out goals to either get a different job, improve the conditions at the current job, and in the meantime, manage stress in helpful, positive ways. Because even if a person is eating the perfect foods for her unique physiology, she will still struggle to remain healthy if her needs are not being met in these other important areas of life. As a coach who specializes in helping people recover their health from chronic illness, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to nourish ourselves in every possible way. And as a person who lives with chronic illness myself, I have to acknowledge how much more difficult all of these primary foods can be to manage. And that's why it's so important to find support from other people, whether it's a spouse, friends, a religious organization, a chronic illness support group, or a health coach. It is so important to reach out and connect with supportive community. And along those lines, I will be opening up a private secret Facebook group. Maybe some of you could suggest a name for my group in the comments. I'm thinking, you know, health recovery group or better health warriors, you know, something along those lines, where, you know, people can ask questions and support each other in achieving better health. So watch for that. It'll be a free offer to join, and I'm hoping to get that out and up and running within the next month. So, community, supportive community. Have you heard about the people of Rosetta, Pennsylvania? There's a PBS documentary and companion book about them called The Italian Americans. In 1961, Rosetta was an isolated town full of Italian immigrants who valued tradition, hard work, family life, church, and really looked out for one another. They came to be the subject of a study to figure out why they had a much lower rate of heart disease than surrounding communities. In spite of the fact that they smoked unfiltered cigars, drank homemade wine, ate all the wrong things, according, you know, to the wisdom of the times, and many were sedentary and obese. So what made the difference? The researchers asked. Did they have good genes? Well, no, they had relatives in other towns who were as sick as the general population. Was it the olive oil that they used? Well, it turns out that they were poor and couldn't afford olive oil and used lard instead. Was it the water? No, they shared a water source with neighboring towns whose population was as sick as most people in the US. Was it the quality of health care and their local hospital? Well, no, they shared that with neighboring communities as well. And the people in those neighboring communities were as sick as most in the US. Dr. Wolf, the researcher, finally realized that it wasn't any of those factors and that there must be something protective about the community itself. And he concluded that a tight-knit, supportive community was a better predictor of heart health than tobacco use or food choices. Basically, the people of Roseto took care of each other. They lived in homes with several generations of the family, went to church together and had communal meals often, and celebrated holidays together. They dropped in on each other often and didn't let anyone become isolated from the community. Now, we truly do live in a different time and place from the people of Roseto, Pennsylvania, and it's not easy to come by supportive community. But connecting with others is essential to health, and there are ways to do it, even in our modern disconnected culture. Here's a few options for plugging into community. You can go to www.meetup.com, plug in your zip code and see all the different groups that are getting together in your area. My local area actually has a chronic illness meetup group, in addition to other fun meetups like the museum meetup group where we go around and visit historical sites. You can plug into community through your religious faith, whatever that might be. You can join a hobby group. I'm lucky enough to live in a neighborhood that has a yarn shop 2 blocks away, and I can go there almost any day of the week and bring my crocheting and sit and be in a community of people who are knitting and crocheting and talking to each other. And then there are support groups, both online and offline for particular chronic conditions. And like I said, watch for the notice about my new Facebook group that are coming up that will offer supportive community. I would argue that the need for supportive human companionship is the most important way we are nourished apart from the food we eat. And this is especially true for those of us who live with chronic illness. But there are a couple of other areas that are important to those of us who want to recover our health. And the first of these is to manage stress. Have you heard the saying, it's not what you eat, but what's eating you? According to the Mayo Clinic website, when stressors are always present and you constantly feel under attack, that fight or flight reaction stays turned on. The long-term activation of the stress response system and the subsequent overexposure to cortisol and other stress hormones can disrupt almost all of your body's processes. This puts you at increased risk of numerous health problems, including anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, memory and concentration impairment. So if stress is a big issue for a person, I can suggest ways to deal with stress, like spending time in nature, taking a walk, meditating, writing in a journal, or petting a pet. Some colleges nowadays are setting up puppy rooms during finals to help students cope with the stress of finals. Having a dog can help in a couple ways. Getting out for a walk with a dog helps us get exercise, and petting a pet can lower blood pressure, release endorphins, and generally relax us. I highly recommend having a pet. You can phone a friend, and we can laugh. If the funny pictures don't do it for you, you can go to YouTube and look up look up videos about goats yelling like humans. I find them hilarious. They make me laugh every single time. So the other area that's so important to those of us with chronic illness is to get enough sleep. And while illness itself can make sleep difficult, there is a lot we can do to help the situation. Things like having a comfortable bed that's only for sleep or sex, and committing to staying in it long enough to get at least 7 or 8 hours of sleep. We can limit light in the evening, especially from electronic devices that emit a lot of blue light. Candles are nice, and for many years before electric lights, people lived in the evening with candles. Blue light is the issue because it shuts down melatonin production in our brains, and it's the melatonin that makes us sleepy and helps us get to sleep. So we can use yellow or orange light bulbs to limit the exposure to blue light, or use blue blocking glasses when working on the computer, or using a smartphone or watching television for the last few hours before bed. Or you can use an app to filter blue light from your electronic device screens. FLux is a good one. Just go to flux.com. So the bottom line for this key to health recovery is that not only is what we eat important, but it's also important to pay attention to the other ways we are nourished in life. Supportive community, healthy relationships, finding what brings joy, managing stress, and getting enough sleep. Dr. Lissa Rankin, MD, in her book Mind Over Medicine, Scientific Proof That You Can Heal Yourself, writes about how she has had patients who ate all the wrong things and rarely exercised, yet enjoyed perfect health because they were happy. And on the flip side, she had patients who ate perfect diets and exercised religiously, but suffered ill health because they were miserable. I'm going to read a little excerpt out of her book now, after I take a little sip of water. Okay, that's a big sip of water. I started digging deep into the personal lives of my patients, asking questions most doctors had never thought of. Is anything keeping you from being the most authentic, vital you? If so, what is holding you back? What do you love and celebrate about yourself? What's missing from your life? What do you appreciate about your life? Are you in a romantic relationship? If so, are you happy? If not, do you wish you were? Are you fulfilled at work? Do you feel like you're in touch with your life purpose? Do you feel sexually satisfied either with a partner or by yourself? Do you express yourself creatively? If so, how? If not, do you feel creatively thwarted, like there's something within you dying to come out? Do you feel financially healthy, or is money a stressor in your life? If your fairy godmother could change one thing about your life, what would you wish for? What rules do you follow that you wish you could break? I discovered that my patients' answers often gave me more insight into why they might be sick than any lab test, medical record review, or X-ray exam could. The diagnosis was often crystal clear in a way I previously had missed because I wasn't asking the right questions. I came to see that these patients were unhealthy not because of bad genes or poor health habits or rotten luck, but because they were gut-wrenchingly lonely or miserable in their bad relationships, stressed about work, freaked out about their finances, or profoundly depressed. Most, when I asked on my intake form, "What's missing from your life?" wrote a long list. And when I asked the same question in person, the majority of these patients wept. Something was going on that had nothing to do with vegetables or exercise or vitamins. On the flip side, I had other patients who ate poorly, exercised rarely, forgot to take their supplements, and enjoyingly seemed perfect health. When I read their intake forms, they revealed that their lives were filled with love, fun, meaningful work, financial abundance, creative expression, sexual pleasure, spiritual connection, and other traits that differentiated them from the sick health enthusiasts. They were, in essence, happy, and even though they didn't take the best care of their bodies responded with good health. So that's her take on the whole idea of primary foods and how important it is to find happiness in life and nourish yourself in all of the areas that nourish you. And that brings us to the fourth key to health recovery, and that is you are unique. One of the big things we learned in coaching school is that there is no one-size-fits-all eating and lifestyle plan. My coaching school had a big fancy word for this, bioindividuality, which was a word made by putting together the two words biological and individuality. And it basically means that everyone is unique. We all have different preferences as far as foods, exercise, leisure activities, etc. And when I work with someone to help them restore their health, we try to figure out what foods are causing problems for them and where to make changes to support a healthier lifestyle. And even though all of the recommendations I have made in this webinar are sound and based on the best scientific evidence, not every recommendation will work for every individual. Also, there are certain books I recommend to everyone I know because they make sense to me, and the principles in them are based on sound science. Here's some of the books I recommend. Books like Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis, a cardiologist in Milwaukee who has had spectacular success getting his patients back into good health by having them eliminate wheat and other grains, which basically makes them cut out all the junk they're eating and focus on eating real whole foods. Dr. David Perlmutter, Grain Brain, The Surprising Truth About Wheat, Carbs, and Sugar That Are Your Brain's Silent Killers. The Walls Protocol, a radical new way to treat all chronic autoimmune conditions using paleo principles. This was my own introduction to the paleo lifestyle, and I truly do believe that the paleo plan is about as good as you can get as far as healing illness. And this recent book from Dr. Mark Hyman, Eat Fat, Get Thin, Why the Fat We Eat is the Key to Sustained Weight Loss and Vibrant Health. You would all learn a lot by reading all of those books, but you might also become confused by them. Why do some experts recommend eliminating dairy while others do not? And what about legumes? Well, everything depends on your unique biochemistry, as well as your personal likes, dislikes, and values about the foods you eat. Remember back in the first key to health recovery when I asked if it's better to eat fermented foods or take a probiotic capsule? Well, some people will have a reaction to eating fermented foods like sauerkraut or kombucha. According to an article at bodyecology.com, that reaction could involve diarrhea, headaches, stuffy or runny nose, asthma, low blood pressure, rapid or irregular heartbeat, hives, or red itchy skin. That reaction is called histamine intolerance and looks just like an allergic response. But instead of your body producing histamine in response to a food, as in an allergy, the food itself has high levels of histamine, which your body has problems detoxifying. So people who react to high histamine foods would do better to take a probiotic until they have healed their bodies a bit for a while. In this case, my job as a health coach is to direct you to resources to help you work through the histamine intolerance. I would certainly send you a link to the low histamine chef, Yasmina Ikelenstam, who lives with this condition and has found a way to heal and pass along her knowledge of the condition. There are so many ways that biological individuality shows up in health coaching. For many people, it is enough to eliminate gluten to recover health. But for others, it will take work to uncover other food sensitivities. And the root causes of illness for some might be less related to food and more related to environmental toxic exposure. Or the illness might be related to emotional trauma or ongoing stress. My intake form is 14 pages long, and it helps my clients and myself get to the root causes of symptoms and learn about trauma or toxic exposure that might have happened before the onset of the illness. I do insist that clients continue to work with their primary care doctors and any specialists they see, and I provide resources to help clients work with their doctors better, to get lab tests done and to get to the bottom of their health concerns. When working with people with chronic illness, it's just so important to pay attention to what makes you unique. It helps us attack the illness at its roots so you can recover your energy and get your spark back. So, today I promise to teach you the 4 most important steps to take your life back from chronic symptoms and start feeling better. Number 1, beat down inflammation by healing your gut. 2, eat more healthy fat. 3, it's about the primary foods, all the other ways in which we're nourished in life. And number 4, you are unique. I promise to teach you why you're feeling terrible and the changes to make to your food and lifestyle to get feeling better, no matter your diagnosis. I promise to teach you the 3 kryptonite foods that are most likely keeping you achy, tired, ill, and heavier than you want to be, and what to eat instead. Today I promise to teach you why eating a low-fat diet is the best way for your body to pile on fat and which fats are the best to eat. And I promise to teach you the 4 lifestyle changes that will skyrocket your mood, deepen your sleep, and bring your spark back without having to move to that monastery in Tibet. And I promise to teach you, and I promise you that by the end of this training, you'll know how to return to health and recover your energy without pills, potions, and portion control. So here's what you need to win. Number 1, heal your gut by eating unprocessed whole foods that your grandmother would have recognized as food. Number 2, eat more healthy fats while reducing or eliminating inflammatory fats. Number 3, bring your life into alignment with your heart and soul by nourishing all the areas of your life. And number 4, discover what makes you unique. If you just do these 4 things, you'll be able to go from being inflamed, bloated, and miserable to finally feeling good in your skin again. So now you have a choice. And here's how I can help. I've set aside some time in the next week to speak to you personally about how you can take back your health from chronic illness starting today. The cost, free. I'm very much, this isn't for everyone though. I'm very much a specialist in helping people with chronic illness, as opposed to simply losing weight and getting a bikini body. You must be completely fed up with aches and pains, feeling sick and bloated, and having ill health. You must be determined to leave no stone unturned to find the root cause of your condition. And you must be ready to take massive action to get your life back to where you want it to be. And you must be willing to invest in your most precious asset, your health, and are prepared to give up some favorite foods, at least for a time, along with the symptoms they cause. On the call, I'll help you get total clarity over exactly what you want your life to look like and the exact steps that you should take to achieve your goals. And if you want me to help you and we think it's a good fit, I may invite you to become one of the new clients I take on this month. If we work together, you will understand your body better than ever, what makes it tick and what makes it sick, so you can lose the digestive upset, aches and pains, and feel good again. You'll dump the inflammation by weeding out the root causes, both in the way you eat and in your lifestyle. You'll heal your body even more by reducing your exposure to toxic chemicals in your food and in your environment. You'll stop being driven mad by the longing for harmful junk foods by deconstructing your cravings and learning to nourish yourself in healthier ways. And you'll learn simple techniques for cooking tasty, nutritious foods without breaking the bank. And if we work together, you'll build up your strength and stamina by finding ways to move your body that bring you joy and don't feel like exercise. And you'll learn to nurture yourself through your relationships and daily rituals, so your life is full without resorting to unhealthy foods. You will finally achieve the goals you set for your health and your life. And I am going over, now I'm going to go, that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to go over to, I can't do that. I'm going to go over to the front side of the webinar and join you in the chat. Okay, reconnect. Oh no. Okay, stop the screen share. I'm gonna not watch myself here. Yes, I am, currently. Okay, well. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'm going to stop the broadcast.